Reports are coming in that Jerry Jones has made some phone calls to the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, pushing for the Dallas Cowboys to travel to Levi Stadium Week 1 to start off the NFL season on Sunday Night Football.
There's nobody in the world that I'd rather kick their ass than the 49ers.
But make no mistake about it, the 49ers is an important game to be trite because of their statute.
I'm seeing some reports circulate. Dallas Cowboys owner Jerry Jones has been making some phone calls to NFL Commissioner Roger Goodell and Vice President of Football Operations Troy Vincent, pushing the 49ers to take on the Dallas Cowboys this upcoming season in Week 1 on Sunday Night Football. Now, why would Jerry want to do that? Let's get into it, y'all. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's your boy, Ryan Tigey, back in action. Reports, if they're true, are coming in that Jerry Jones has made some phone calls to the commissioner of the NFL, Roger Goodell, pushing for the Dallas Cowboys to travel to Levi Stadium Week 1 to start off the NFL season on Sunday Night Football. Typical Dallas Cowboy fashion. Now, why would Jerry want to do that? Well, apparently his rationale is he wants to show the world what this team is about and wants to do it early. Okay, let me stop right there. For whatever reason, Jerry Jones, as of late specifically, has had an absolute hard-on for the San Francisco 49ers.
There's nobody in the world that I'd rather kick their ass than the 49ers.
I think he is still living in the 80s and 90s when there was a true rivalry between the 49ers and the Dallas Cowboys. They actually went back and forth, trading off who won games. Oftentimes, whoever won those battles, specifically in the playoffs, won the Super Bowl. Well, that's just not the case anymore. This isn't an actual rivalry. I understand that there's been a resurgence of this rivalry since they've faced off a couple times in the playoffs, which the 49ers have knocked out the Dallas Cowboys twice in those appearances. But nonetheless, I understand it's a resurgence. But man, oh man, is Jerry Jones putting some pressure on his team and specifically his head coach, Mike McCarthy, which there's been a plethora of reports every year the Cowboy season ends. All the reports come out. They need to make some changes. It needs to either be a QB, Dak Prescott, or head coach, Mike McCarthy.
I knew what my quarterback was and what he wasn't. I've been saying this for 3 years. I keep trying to just barely cling to him, and I just barely hang on. And I say, okay, maybe this time he can stay out of the way, because he never looks comfortable against San Francisco at all. This is 3 straight losses, the last 2, obviously, the previous 2 in the playoffs. You look at his QBR, it's under 50. It's a very good defense he's up against, but they have his psychological number. He is deer in headlights. I know what he is, but most of all, I know what he's not. And I've been saying it for year after year after year. And now I'm done with Dak Prescott.
But I digress. What I can say is we know for a fact they're on each other's schedules this upcoming season. We just don't know when. And the NFL would love an actual resurgence of this rivalry to come back into the spotlight. You got 2 historic franchises, a bunch of Hall of Fame players in both history of the organizations, a bunch of Super Bowl rings. And with that, you got two of the largest fan bases. So whenever these teams face off, it automatically goes gangbusters in terms of viewerships watching these games. So I understand that the NFL would love it. So I'd be curious to see if it's something they actually do. And considering Jerry Jones is one of the most powerful owners, can he make this happen? So we will see. But let's take a quick jog down memory lane, shall we? Instead of looking at the history of the matchups in the 80s and 90s, which was so long ago, let's take a look at just the past 3 years where we're really starting to see a resurgence of the term rivalry when talking about these two teams whenever they face off. In 2021 is really when things got kicked off. They face each other in the wild card of the first round of the NFL playoffs. And I remember this year because the Niners barely squeaked into the playoffs to begin with. And the 49ers, to get into the playoffs, to get into wild card weekend, they went into overtime playing their division rival, the Rams, barely won that game, which ultimately got them into the playoffs to travel to Dallas to face off the Cowboys. That was the game that was the infamous Dallas Cowboys clock management debacle.
With 14 seconds to go, Cowboys have no more timeouts left. So the middle of the field is open. If they want to do that, then spike the ball. Two receivers go left, including Tony Pollard. It's a designed run for Dak Prescott. 30, 25, gets hit from behind by Szn. They got to get up and clock the ball. 5, 4, 3, 2. Dak, will he get it off in time?
No.
With 1 second to go, did he spike the ball in time or not?
No, he did not.
He did not. The 49ers have won the game. What do you got, Alex Kemp? Did he spike it in time?
That's the end of the game.
Game is over. The 49ers have won.
Pretty entertaining, especially if you're a 49ers fan, seeing how Mike McCarthy had some serious issues with the clock that game, and ultimately that helped the 49ers seal the victory. The 49ers ended up winning 23-17. That's when there's also that famous photo of Dallas Cowboy fans flipping off Trent Williams, and it was just a great win. And again, because it was a playoff game, win or go home, that's what really started getting things cooking back into the narrative of Dallas Cowboys 49ers rivalry. So then let's fast forward to 2022. The year later, they faced off again in the playoffs. This time it was the divisional round, and this was the 9th postseason meeting which the same two teams faced off. It was an NFL record that year in 2022. This was also Brock Purdy's rookie season. Not only was it his rookie season, he started off that season being the third string quarterback, and the only way he got inserted into the lineup was because of two quarterback injuries. Trey Lance, shout out Dallas for giving us a 4th round draft pick for him not seeing one snap on the field yet, and you guys not picking up his 5th year option. But nonetheless, Trey Lance got injured, and then Jimmy G got injured, which got Brock Purdy inserted into the lineup and found our QB1, made himself a name. This was also the game that was the infamous hip drop tackle. That's when that term became commonplace, was when Jimmy Ward, the 49er safety at the time, tackled Tony Pollard, which ended up fracturing his left tibia, I believe. And that play is also one that was shown as an example of what the hip drop tackle is, which the Owners and Players Association voted on this past offseason, and which is now why it's banned. It's dumb. It is what it is. And the other thing that comes to mind when we talk about this game specifically, this one was at Levi's. This was also the infamous Ezekiel Elliott play, the last play of the game. They were trying to do some trick play. He lined up at center, and our linebacker at that time, Azeez Al-Shire, absolutely rocked Zeke. The play went for like 2 yards, got the ball, got immediately tackled. It was the last play of the game, but that's something that can last a lifetime because, man, oh man, that shit was funny as hell. That's how that game ended, which again was the NFC playoffs. So now we move on to 2023. Last season, oh baby, I remember the Cowboys fans were loud saying this is the year, this is the best team the Dallas Cowboys have. They're going to finally beat the 49ers since they've been knocked out of the playoffs 2 years in a row. Well, it was the opposite of that because the 49ers whooped their ass 42-10 at Levi's Stadium. I believe it was week 5, primetime night game. And this was the infamous game where George Kittle wore the Fuck Dallas t-shirt which was a nod to a legendary linebacker, Gary Plummer, back in the day when Gary Plummer actually played in those true rivalry era of the Cowboys and 49ers. He was the one that initially started that, which was a nod to Gary. But nonetheless, George Kittle wore that shirt. I'll always remember that because how legendary that was, how old school that was. But the bottom line is the Niners whooped their ass. So the main question is, why is Jerry doing this? Is he being smart or is he being dumb? Well, there's one or two ways that this could turn out for the Cowboys. If Jerry's being dumb and they take an L immediately in week one, it could be devastating for them. Or maybe Jerry sees it as an opportunity to make a coaching move. That would be an aggressive coaching move week one, but it would just immediately put Mike McCarthy on the hot seat yet again for another season, which he has been, even though Jerry Jones is stuck with him. But it could just psychologically damage a team. Again, the team that has knocked them out of the playoffs, beat them in the regular season 3 years in a row. They still can't get over the hump. And this is just what it is. They're not going to get past the 49ers. And what else this could cause in this situation is the media immediately going on a firestorm and saying that exact same thing. The Cowboys can't beat the 49ers. They need to fire the head coach, Mike McCarthy. He can't do it. Oh, they need to make a QB change again because Dak Prescott has proven he can't beat good teams when he faces off against a good defense, et cetera, et cetera. So if Jerry's dumb and this comes back and bites him in the ass, that is what's potentially going to happen if they play week one and the 49ers end up winning that game. On the flip side, if Jerry's being smart, which as an NFL billionaire owner, that's where I would lean towards, I think his thought process is a little bit different. The 49ers had some changes from last season to this season. One of those being they have a new defensive coordinator. They also have injuries that they're still battling from that occurred in the Super Bowl. One that comes to mind, Dre Greenlaw, our starting linebacker, who is an absolute dog on the field, tore his Achilles in the Super Bowl against Kansas City Chiefs, a complete freak injury, devastating to see, massive loss of a player in the Super Bowl. That definitely hurt the 49ers. That doesn't get talked about enough, but nonetheless, they've also had some turnover on the defensive line. They lost 9-year starter Eric Armstead, who's now in the Jags. Our first-round draft pick, Javon Kinlaw, is no longer there. Randy Gregory, who we picked up on the D-line midseason last year, is gone. So the 49ers have had some turnover, specifically on the defensive line. Now, when it comes to the defensive coordinator, thankfully, he's an internal hire. He's been around the team, and so our defense isn't going to be changing. So I don't envision something that would be that much of an advantage to the Cowboys and Jerry Jones and what he's thinking about, oh, the 49ers defense is not going to be what it is because there's been some turnover on the D-line and defensive coordinator. But you also have to note the Cowboys also have a new defensive coordinator, someone coming from outside the building, old school coach, former Vikings head coach, Mike Zimmer is now the defensive coordinator. So I think it evens out, or you can even give the edge to the San Francisco 49ers for sure. But just something to think about. And then, of course, if the Dallas Cowboys still lose, but it's a close game, then it would obviously be less impactful psyche-wise for the Dallas Cowboys, since they have a whole season ahead of them to just kind of figure it out. The narrative will be said that, NFL teams don't really show and decide and figure out who they are until a few weeks into the NFL season. We hear that every single year. And so naturally, if that game was close, that would be the media narrative that would come out of that game is Dallas Cowboys right there, battled week one, still trying to figure out who they're going to be, what their identity is, and they will figure it out and have a great run later on in the season. And it's also potentially something that Jerry Jones is thinking is it's better to take your lumps early in the season, definitely, versus late in the season where the games matter a whole heck of a lot more. And then, of course, with a major asterisk, if the Cowboys were able to figure it out and actually beat the 49ers, that would just set the league on fire. From the Cowboys fans, from the Cowboys pundits, oh, this is our year. We beat the team that has stopped us the past 2 or 3 seasons. It's our year. We're going to the Super Bowl. They say that every year, but this year it would be a little bit different just because the team that in the recent past has always beaten them, the Cowboys just beat. But again, that's a lot of projecting but just something, again, I think Jerry Jones may potentially be thinking as to why he's pushing for the Cowboys and 49ers to face off week 1 Sunday Night Football. And for those out there that say it doesn't matter that the Cowboys got absolutely smoked by the 49ers last season, the season before that, and the season before that, it's a new year and it's a new team. Well, that is true, but I think it's not as true as maybe some of these fans may be hoping it is, simply because a lot of the core players on the San Francisco 49ers and Dallas Cowboys are still there. In a lot of the big time positions, you got the same guys lining up across from one another. And then, of course, you have the same quarterbacks, which is a big deal, and the same head coaches, which is a big deal. So although, yes, new year, new team, however, it may not be as big of a difference what we've seen in recent years than what some of the Cowboy fans may be envisioning, just because there's a lot of same players, same coaches, same schemes, just a lot of the same. So to wrap this up, hopefully this does come true, and hopefully Goodell does make this happen. We know for sure the 49ers and the Cowboys, they're on each other's schedule. We just don't know when. And my guess is it will be week 1, especially if Jerry is actually pushing this. Because if not, it's going to be much later in the season, like another week 13 game where it's that much more elevated, that much more important. It's definitely going to be week 1 or late in the season. So if they do play week 1, I hope it's announced ASAP. Why? So Micah Parsons can get on his pod and just start popping off his mouth, because he loves to do that. Loves to give his opinion. I love hearing it. I love the motivation it gives other teams and players that he faces off, because he talks a lot on his pod, which is what you do. And that can give the 49ers some offseason juice heading into the 2024 season. So, all right, y'all, I just had to jump on here and give my 2 cents about these reports that I'm seeing out there about this Jerry Jones situation. Again, hopefully it does come true. If not, I don't think the 49ers care one way or another. They'll show up any place, anytime, anywhere, and strap it on. I'll be back as training camp approaches. Hopefully more and more things will come out that are actually noteworthy and newsworthy to jump on here and talk about. But until then, like, comment, subscribe. You know the deal. Hit me up. Peace.